Gloriana here. Hello everybody. So in this video, I'm going to explain how I quit smoking overnight and never thought about a cigarette again. And I didn't do it a traditional way with like a patch or the gum or anything like that. Although I tried all those things, I did it through a energy route. All right, here we go. So I picked up the habit of smoking in college. It's not something I ever would have thought I would do. Actually, as a kid, my eyes used to swell up and I would cough if I was even around smoke. And, you know, being born in the 80s, I remember being on airplanes with people smoking and in restaurants and bars, and it's not, the air wasn't as clean as it is today, and I would really just break out. So I happened to go to college in France, and in France, you know, smoking and café clope, as we would say in French, you know, coffee and a cigarette is just part of the culture. So I picked up this habit of smoking, and although I didn't like it, I never did, I smoked, and I was a smoker. And I bartended in college, and I, you know, would smoke, and I'd have a beer or whatever. I was a smoker. And I noticed that even when I was a smoker, I couldn't stand the smoke, again, my eyes and the smell. And so if I was around somebody that was smoking, I'd have to smoke. It was very weird, and I wouldn't get that like cringy, I can't be around this feeling. So I smoked for many years, and after college I moved back to New York, and I then started a full-time job where not a single person smoked. And I was the only one. So I smoked for about a year, and I'd go outside and I'd take my smoking break. But, you know, I'd kind of get weird looks, and people in the office just didn't smoke, and I was kind of the odd man out. So I realized, like, you know, I never wanted to start smoking. I never really ever enjoyed it. I mean, at some points I did, but that was really like if you're smoking and having a coffee, like, you know, in France. So I decided to quit smoking. And it took me on a 5-year journey. So I tried cold turkey the first time, and I remember being able to stop for a month or two, but the cravings were really strong. So I remember having to like chew gum or eat, or I was sort of replacing one habit with another habit. So that didn't last very long. The urge to smoke kind of came back in 2 months, irregardless of, you know, what, you know, people will say 21 days and it's out of your system, or to break a habit. The mental thought of, and that, you know, putting that motion of lighting a cigarette and inhaling was still a habit. It was still a physical habit that I had, and like a muscle memory that I had the urge to do. So I started smoking again. And I smoked, and I tried to convince myself, well, I don't really want to stop smoking, I guess, and I did. So I tried again. And I tried several different things, and I would stop for 6 months, or I'd stop for a year, and something would like take me back to it. Then I started vaping, and I vaped from a nicotine level of 20 down to 0, and that worked. And I thought, awesome. And I was basically just pulling in that vaporized air and exhaling it, and I realized, oh, you know what? This is actually part of a meditative practice. My body needs breath. So after I got down to 0 nic, and I put the vape machine away, and I had all the little gadgets. I put that away, and I stopped smoking for a year. And anytime I had thought about a cigarette, I'd do this breath work, and the need would go away. I realized my body just needed breath. So I would recommend that, but that's not what got me to quit smoking. And I actually do that nowadays in biofield tuning. The breath in is to move energy and to get things flowing. And while I was on to something, it's not what got me to quit smoking, but I did quit smoking for a whole year using, getting down after a couple of years of vaping, getting down to zero nic, and then doing that breathing exercise. And then I don't know what happened. One day I was out and my friend was smoking a cigarette, and we had a beer, and it was all of a sudden that habit came right back to me. And I thought, you gotta be kidding me. I went from not smoking for a year to like a pack a day again. And again, I had varied. While, the many years that I was a smoker, I could smoke one cigarette in a day, or I could smoke a pack. It was so varied. So here I am at a pack a day, and I am feeding. I'm like making up for lost time, and I'm smoking, and I didn't really want to be. At this point, I was kind of pissed off, and so I was, I had just become a biofield tuning practitioner, and I was going for the advanced training class. So the very first advanced training, so post-practitioner training for biofield tuning, was in November of 2017. And these wonderful women that I had taken my training classes with were there, and we all knew each other, and we were working in each other's fields. And we had gotten a warning before the class, this is going to be an intense detox afterwards. We're going to be doing 6 sessions. So we're going to be giving and receiving 6 sessions in 3 days. So just to give you guys like a mark here, benchmark here, like we usually recommend getting 1 session and waiting a minimum of 3 days. And here we are giving and receiving 6 sessions in 3 days. So day 1, fantastic. Day 2, my friend, one of the only tuners that has ever tuned me, gets in my field and goes, "Ugh." And I go, "Ugh." And I am a seer. I see things, okay? And I knew right away that it was like this old man in my field. And I could like see his face, and he was kind of creepy. So I had entities cleared off of me before, but here I am seeing one for the first time, really seeing it in my own field, not in other people's fields or anything, just like face to face with this thing. I can give you other entity stories, but I'm gonna stick to this one for now. Let's just say I had a history of like working with entities and like clearing them and knowing what it feels like when it's cleared, and it feels amazing. So here I am like, and so we go, okay, well, we're gonna leave that there for now, and we're gonna move on with the biofield tuning work. And this particular practice, you have to go around once, and then you come back around, and it's over the head, and she goes, again, and I go, again, yeah, we're onto something. And we kind of just nodded to each other. We understood this is something that I had to look into and take care of. So I went home that night, and I messaged my most trusted shaman. Now, shamans are trained to remove entities and any energies that are sort of prowling around your field and siphoning your energy. So I called my most trusted shaman, and I said, I have this entity, and I really need to get it off of me. So this was a Saturday, and training was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then Monday, I was supposed to go back to work. But she only had 2 o'clock on Monday available. So I said, that's fine, I'll take it. So we still had to go back to class and work. And then the next day on Sunday, I had one of the teachers work in my field to see if she felt it. And she's like, this isn't really your field. This is something else siphoning your energy. So I said, okay. And I went home and I just thought, like, I was trying to talk to it, like, leave. And I could just feel it in my field. If you've ever felt an entity in your field, you know what it feels like. And until you do, until you experience it being gone, maybe, you won't really know. So I remember this like it was yesterday. I had no more sick days or PTO days or anything at work, but I took off anyway. I knew I needed to do this. And my boss wasn't very happy. She took days from the following year, but I knew I had to do this. So I took off of work and I spent the whole morning, and then I extended my hotel, and I spent the whole morning doing an exercise from Dean Graziosi's book. I think it's Success Habits of a Millionaire. I think that's the title of the book. And in one of the chapters, he goes through an exercise where you ask yourself why 7 times, but I asked myself why more like 25 times, as to why you want to do something in life. So why do you want to make $1 million, or why do you want to be a healer, or what, like whatever it is, you ask yourself. And at first there'll be sort of 3D exterior world motives, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, there's an emotional part of you that is the why. So my why as to why I wanted to help folks with their energy and do certain things. I used to be part of a group called Ubuntu, and why I was doing all these things for myself and humanity. And when I got down to it, I was bawling, crying, and that's what Dean Graziosi says. He goes, you've hit it when all the emotions are coming to the surface. So my why as to why I became like a biofield tuning practitioner, why I do what I do in life in general, is because I was sick of being pushed aside. I didn't want to shut up, go away, go to the kids' table. Kids should be seen and not heard. Leave me alone. Go to your friend's house. That feeling of being pushed away. I wanted to have inclusion. I wanted to have harmony, to have balance amongst families, friends, humanity, and teach them this. And I went outside, and I'm, face full of tears, and my face is red, and I go outside to smoke a cigarette, and it's 1:55 p.m. and I have my appointment in 5 minutes. And I'm outside the hotel, and I go, holy cow, this very thing is pushing me aside. And all the thoughts that flooded in that moment were, you've never wanted to smoke? Do you want to quit smoking? This has control over you. And I had lost control of, it took me really strongly. And I realized that that very thing, this very act of smoking, was pushing what my soul wanted aside. And I wasn't listening. It was creating a distraction from my soul and what I what I really wanted on the inside. I think you get that. So I go upstairs and I get in front of my computer and I get on Skype and I talk to my shaman and I said, I think this entity is smoking through me. Now, I told her the whole story of what I just told you. And I said, I realize I'm sick of being pushed aside and this very thing is pushing me aside. And she said, all right. And that she would work on me. Actually, before she said, all right, she said, boundaries, Gloriana, boundaries. And that was, it was a bit of a shock, but it was something that I really needed. I started to put myself forward, to put myself with strong boundaries with other people, but with the spirit world as well, and to allow my soul to listen to my soul, okay? So that my soul, I wasn't inadvertently pushing myself aside. And I've been working on boundaries for the last 5 years. And, they get stronger and stronger every day. It's one of the greatest lessons I have learned. I help my clients with it now, but that's besides the point. She enforced boundaries. She said, okay, I am glad that you got to the bottom of this, to your trigger, to your wound. And now you understand how you have a weakened state and this entity is coming in through your own thought form. So I often tell people, everything that happens, you created. Well, for the most part. And I had that perception from childhood that I had to work on. And so I had to strengthen that and create a stronger boundary and heal from that myself and take responsibility for having that thought form. And how this entity got in through the back door of that thought form. I hope I'm making sense. This is what we do in biofield tuning. When we work in the field, we're looking for where there's less voltage, less battery charged up in order to keep yourself in your harmonious state, your coherence. So where oftentimes it's a thought form that's created in childhood, and it's before the age of 7, and maybe it's, a parent left, and so if I'm not worthy, or whatever your trauma or thought forms or whatever it is that's your thing, your sticky spot, if that goes unhealed, that creates a sort of a leak in the energy fields, and basically entities come in and go, well, there's a weakened state. We're not going to get, electrocuted if we go in through a weakened state, and a personal belief. So I had that belief that I was being pushed aside. So that entity was just saying, well, she already thinks she's being pushed aside, so I can push her aside. That's how the universal law works. Okay. So anyway, back to how I quit smoking. I got in the car at that 2:00 and I was driving from Burlington, Vermont back down to New York City, which takes about 6 to 7 hours. And I remember pulling over, just feeling like, okay, I gotta pull over to get gas. It was about 8:00 at night. It was maybe a little earlier than that, but it was in the evening. And as soon as I put the car in park, I went, ah. At that very moment, I felt that entity leave. And it was like the biggest decontraction, soothing, opening, like best massage type of feeling ever. My whole field just relaxed. And I opened up my phone to text her, and bing, on my phone appears a message. All done. Going to bed now. Talk tomorrow. And I was just about to message her. Just like I hadn't touched anything. I had just pulled up the conversation. And I wrote, "Thank you so much. I can feel it. It just left. And I feel so good. I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. So I got out and took my pack of cigarettes with me, threw them in the garbage can at that gas station, got gas, went home, and never smoked another cigarette again in my life. Ever. That cigarette, that aha moment, was the last one I ever smoked in my life. And that was November 2017. Now, the miracle from my perspective in this story is I never, ever, ever thought of a cigarette again in my life. Never. I never had a craving. I never thought of smoking. And today, most people who meet me can't even believe I ever smoked. Ever. I mean, when I tell this story, I kind of don't even believe I smoked either. It's like not even part of in the realm of thoughts. It is that like clear. That got like, I never smoked a cigarette again, never had a craving, never thought about a cigarette again. That thing, that entity was smoking through me. Now, I'm not telling you this to scare you, and I'm also not saying every smoker has an entity smoking through them. I'm telling you how my story, how thought forms and preconceived notions or subconscious beliefs created in childhood that are unresolved and unhealed can leave for your energy field to continue to pulse that out. And in my case, an entity came in because that was my belief already and just used my beliefs against me, really. Or to rather, not against them, but really just to their advantage. From my perspective, entities are just taking opportunities. There's so many people in the world that, have all these beliefs that they're not worthy or that they deserve something negative. Well, the list goes on. And they're just taking that opportunity to siphon the energy. But if you don't give it to them, if you heal your wounds and create boundaries, you start to come more into health. And the more you can, health is really energy. It's energy flowing through your body. And the more you can clear blocks, the more you can get energy flowing through your body, the less you are in dis-ease, the more you are in flow, the healthier, more coherent you are. Okay. So that's my story about how I quit smoking. I then have used that experience and I help clients with, what their why is. Using biofield tuning, we can sort of use a hack or like a back door to locate it really quick. Oftentimes my clients will say getting a biofield tuning session is like 20 years of therapy in one session, because we're releasing everything that the mind is telling us and we're going straight into your field, straight into the energy patterns and listening to them. And I have found plenty over the last several years of being a practitioner, entities and thought forms, and have helped my clients return to health. A few entities that I've cleared in my clients' field have released hot flashes. Now, I'm not talking about, I'm in the middle of menopause and this is a natural cycle, there's hormones. I'm not talking about that. The hot flash I cleared actually was out of a man and he was too embarrassed to tell anybody. But I asked him as I'm in the field, I'm like, do you have hot flashes? Because I could feel that's what the entity was doing to him. And he goes, oh my God, I've never told anybody. How do you know that? I'm so embarrassed. You know, I'm a 40-year-old man. I shouldn't be getting hot flashes. So I cleared the entity that was along with that, but I worked on the thought forms with that client and then harmonized all that, and then the entity left, okay? I've worked with migraines. I have a client in New York City that had chronic migraines, went to all the best doctors in New York City. They couldn't figure it out. Now, I'm not saying all migraines are caused by this. I'm saying that sometimes this is what's going on. If you have exhausted all other options, maybe this give you, maybe, you know, explore this. I'm not a medical professional. I believe that you should go to your doctor. You should definitely seek, you know, out your physician. I'm just offering what energy therapy can do for you. Possibly. What worked for me. She went to many doctors in New York City, continued to get migraines, cleared an entity. It's a kind of a crazy story, but figured out where in her house she had an entity, cleared it. And she never got a migraine again. And that was 2 or 3 years ago. So I have seen this work. Again, it's not for everybody, but sometimes it is. And that's how I quit smoking, how I found freedom. It was a combination. Now, I'm not saying that you can just clear an entity and you'll quit smoking tomorrow. What I am saying is if you get to the core of your why, you can work on your energy fields and you can have any sort of siphoning energies cleared from you. You might experience a complete shift overnight. Okay. Aloha, take care, and be well.